Okay, so in this video, I just wanted to go over why it is that many of the state entities, things like people in the medical field, that can be anywhere from doctors that are in hospitals to psychologists and psychiatrists, and even when it comes to uh, the police, how these systems that are public systems supported by the state in our society are not actually here for you, which might surprise you because every time you're going through something like a some type of mental health issue or whatever, you think to yourself, oh man, well maybe I should go to therapy, maybe I should see a therapist about this. um, and every time you're in danger, you think, oh, let me call the police. And every time, you're sick, you think, oh, let me go to the hospital because these people are, it's their job to make me better. But that is a gross misunderstanding. No, these people don't want you better. In fact, these are, turning to the people who get money off of your illness, um, and thinking that in a capitalist system, it is within their best interest that you get better is it's just not it's just a conflict of interest. You know, when you look at things from the fact that just to kind of restate what I was saying, you yeah, you have people who benefit off of your illness, who get all of their money from your illness. Um, and you really think that these people want you better, or it's kind of like they might want you alive enough to keep coming back, but yeah, no, they are not they're just not in the interest of making sure that you're healed, fully healed, and not needing of them. um Something that you'll notice, and this is one of the things that makes me really happy that I grew up down south, because things just happen a lot slower down there. Change happens a lot slower. It really takes its time down there. So I was lucky enough to grow up in an environment where I got to not only see a life before um you know I just got to see a lot of wisdom that I think is completely or near absent in cities, and is quickly leaving countrysides and more rural areas. But my grandmother, God rest her soul, she was actually a pretty awful woman to me. But at the end of the day, my grandmother, she hated the doctor. She hated doctors. Hated them. And I don't fucking blame her. Like before, not even just before, because honestly, all my life as a child, um, I've had negative experiences at hospitals and things like that. What I mean by that is just when you're a kid, they kind of have to do things, certain things that you, of course, object to, but you can't really object to because you're a kid, so they're going to force you to go through it anyway. But I mean, even things like when I got older, one time I injured my leg. Like I got hit by a car into a house. And I go to the hospital, and because I'm not bleeding or whatever, and hospitals are always busy, 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 So of course, I had to wait there for hours and hours and hours. I think I waited there like 12 hours or something like that. But then when I finally did get seen by the doctor, um, they were asking, oh, which leg is injured, blah, blah, blah. We need to, well, actually, they didn't ask any of those questions. They were just like, we need to put you up for an x ray. And I'm like, and they were like putting the x ray on the wrong leg. And I was trying to tell them, like, hey, don't you want to do this leg? And he's like, no, 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 just stay there. It's like, they're just pretty much dismissive, very, very dismissive. Um, and ultimately, they x rayed the wrong leg. And then on our way out, they're like, wait, come back. We got the wrong leg. And he's like, why didn't you say anything? I was like, well, I tried. But, like in the hospitals, that's just something that always, well, not always, but a lot of times happens. Not only that, but then recently, I went to the hospital at Rush University, and the medical staff, they're extremely well. First of all, I had one experience. One of my experiences was good, and the other experience was really awful. One of the doctors there, or not doctors, nurses there, they thought it would be funny to try and, lock a patient who was having a panic attack into a dark room by themselves. Like they're just doing some really foul shit. And there's going to be something filed for that. But at the end of the day, just these people are disgusting. These medical industry, like they're just filled with people, and people suck. People are human. People are not perfect. And not only are they not perfect, but they fall really far away from perfection. Um, there's one really funny meme that talks about how like all of the mean girls in high school, they became the nurses, they became the CNAs, they became the home care aides, and it's true. Honestly, all of those, all of those chicks that were just, I just weren't really that weren't great back then. They're in the medical field. That's all they're doing. They're nurses. They're CNAs. They're doing whatever. Um, and yeah, it's just. But those are just the individual people. These are just people that are just pawns in the system. But it goes, of course, deeper than that. It's kind of like the regular cops. That are just there to. First of all, that are new to the force and things like that. Like they're just doing their job. They're just there. They're just pawns of the system. Oftentimes, whenever we're going through issues with these certain larger systems, we tend to blame the people that we can see. But really, the people that we can see are more than likely the pawns. They're the people that are pushed off on. They're the people that are, you know, the first in line to go into combat and war. They're just the front line sheeple. The real entities, the people that you can't see, those are the ones that are running the show, and they're the ones that are weaponizing these systems that are they claim are in place for us, um, and weaponizing them so that they can keep us sick, keep us angry, keep us desperate, keep us sad, keep us broken. Um, and today I just want to talk about, namely, the psychiatry and therapeutic fields, um, first and foremost. But but I definitely want to talk about things like the police and hospitals as well, because they feed into it too. They're all a part of it too. Um, but first and foremost, I just like to really focus on the psychiatric field, because this is the field that's kind of like, in a way, made a comeback. What I mean by that is, as a kid, there wasn't a lot of talk about things like mental health, or things like uh what is it, safe spaces, or all this other stuff. Oh, just when I was a kid. Well, a little kid. But as I grew up, and I became more of like an adolescent, then these conversations about mental health and therapy and all this other stuff became like really, really big. Um, and you might think that that would be for the better, because honestly, we all go through issues. We all have issues in life that we need some help with. But the thing is, there's been a change in the practices regarding therapists and things like that, and some of those changes have been for the better, but many of them have, as you can see quite clearly in society. If you can't see, the examples I bring up will pretty much clearly show that. But many of the changes that they've undergone have also been for the worse. Um, Therapy is no longer a place where you try to help someone get over a process. Now it's a place where you try to enable. Therapists have become enablers. Not only enablers, but they've also become. It's like it was a weird thing. Like they're not only overstepping their boundaries, but they're also under. Um, but they're also. It's like as a the psych field and the therapy field, that whole line is no longer a place for it's just no longer a place for people to make any real difference. They're not there to make a difference. They're there to make money. And if that means telling you, yes, you are a flying purple unicorn inside of a human fleshy body, but that's not what you really like, they're going to do it. And they're doing it because some of them are just malignant, like they know this bullshit, but they're just going to do it anyway because, hey, fuck y'all, let me make my money and stuff like that. But then there are those who are doing it because they're being trained that way and they think to themselves, well, the studies say that this is how I should do it, or nope, this is what my overseers are telling me I should do, so I'm gonna do it. I'm getting a whole bunch of pressure to be this way, so I'm gonna do it. And this is what we have. And this is the reason why lobotomy is coming back. Lobotomy in the form of like the whole trans thing. This is the reason why people are viewing narcissism as in everything that people do. I was literally watching this one video, and don't get me wrong, I don't love this one because I gotta be honest, I just like her because she just has good information, but it's always cobbled up with things like her own religiosity and views and stuff like that. But you eat the meat, you spit out the bones. She has great financial advice, so I follow her for those things. Kimberly, but what is it from? Kimberly from dang, what did she call herself? The classy? No, that's Erica. That's the woman I fucking love. I love Erica. I started watching Kimberly more because Erica went on hiatus, but now that Erica's back, I'm like, ooh, let me go back to the one I love. But in the meantime, I started watching Kimberly, the gold standard, whatever it is. I started watching her videos for financial advice and stuff like that. But and she is great in that field. Like, don't let her religiosity put you off because she knows what she knows. And you could probably benefit from a lot of her sermons too. But it's just there's just differences and things like that. She can just go on and on about that other extra stuff. But hey, it's fine. It's varying. I like the difference. I like the variety. But I was listening to not even just her, but other people talk about these people that they've had conflicts with. And something you'll notice about these conversations about things like narcissism and stuff like that is that people will sit there and have conflicts with someone and then automatically go to, it's because they're a narcissist. And it's just like, but here's the thing. When you look at the Dr. Ramanis, when you look at the other Psych2Go, when you look at these other channels that are about that try to specialize in narcissism and things like that, when you look at it, it's like they sit there and they brand any and everything under the sun as a telltale sign that someone is narcissistic. And you got to ask yourself, who does this actually benefit? And I think it's really important because the psychiatry field, the therapeutic field, these fields are becoming places where you just give people what they want. Just tell them what they want to hear. Tell them what makes them feel better. Yes, that person who cut you off in line, they did it because they're a fucking psychopath. Yeah, that person who was mean to you, that sat there and bullied you, it's not because they were going through issues at home. It's not because they, had this and that and the third. It's because of the fact that they are a psychopath. They are a mad person in the making. They're fucking, that person who is, that nice guy there. Don't get me wrong, yeah, nice guys suck. But at the end of the day, they're not fucking, majority of them are not fucking psychopaths. They're just people that don't know that haven't gain certain skills in different areas. But at the end of the day, you'll just find that when you look at these videos, literally everything under the sun becomes a telltale sign that someone is a narcissist. And here's the thing, when everyone's a narcissist, no one's it's just the perfect little, it's like a smoke bomb. These therapists are letting off these smoke bombs in the room in order to hide who the real monsters are. They're trying to tell you that your sister who picked on you by doing XYZ and blah 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 and not giving a fuck about how that made you feel is an evil monster, but the person who is doing XYZ and the person you can't see, that person's not the monster at all. They try to sit there and tell you like, oh, that nice person who's constantly smiling in your face and constantly trying to, be agreeable to you. Like that person's a narcissist. No, that person's not a narcissist. They just either lack boundaries or maybe they're the type of person that doesn't want others to go through the same pain that they've been through. Like, it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. Never in my life have I just seen um so many posts about narcissism. It's just like, calm the fuck down. Like, something is wrong here. Like, it, people need to realize that it's not. It's like there's in the self help world, especially, oh my god, especially in the self help world, it's like the word narcissist has become this dog whistle term, and it's just a term used to let you know, hey, this person is very, very bad. Don't ever trust them. Don't ever listen to them. Don't ever blah 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 blah. They're deflecting now. They're deflecting now. They're doing this. They're doing that. Blah 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 blah, and all this other shit. Um, and it's just the weirdest thing ever. Like, now I'm starting to see these posts where they talk about how narcissists are like people that have come from adverse childhoods. Like, and it's interesting watching the development of the conversations around narcissism go from people who were born that way, um, and that lack empathy, to now it's people um, who had a mean parent or, authority figure, and who were neglected, and now they've become these, like, and it's just so interesting how perfectly that argument is set up to demonize people on the lower rungs of society, people who have to deal with adverse, like, get the fuck out of here. Adversity doesn't make a narcissist. Matter of fact, and this is the thing that makes it so sickening, because as someone who has had the opportunity, I call it a privilege, to exist at multiple class levels. As a child, in a child, I lived in one sphere, and then as a young adult, I was in another sphere. Um, Someone who's had that privilege, let me tell you, people with the adverse childhoods, they are not the narcissists. It's the people who have sat there and spent their entire lives, in these safe, protected little bubbles that are the fucking narcissists. Like, let me tell you, like, these it's not the poor people, it's the people that are living kind of not rich. I wouldn't say, yes, rich people are fucking psychopaths, to a certain degree, not all of them, of course, but I mean, like, I'm trying to say here is adversity doesn't make narcissists. That's not how this works. um Africa isn't full of narcissists. What else is it? Asia isn't full of narcissists. There's these Indian kids. They aren't narcissists. What the fuck? Like, it's just so interesting to me how these conversations are just being flipped to try and make it out where anyone who does any, and it's also interesting the kind of behaviors that they try to demonize, because they're really normal behaviors. Not only are they normal behaviors, but they're behaviors that are beneficial to a society that has people that know how to stand up, that know how to, you know, command authority, that know how to navigate, multiple different groups. There, it takes being a certain level of it takes having a certain level of emotional intelligence and knowing how to navigate through different, spheres of um of uh of different groups and of different personalities in order to win over people and things like that. And these traits aren't necessarily bad. It's all about the intention or the use behind these things. And it's just really interesting to me, um, just seeing how these terms have been evolving and being watered down more and more and more over the years, to the point where they practically mean nothing. And when something means nothing, it's pretty much useless. Like this, it's like literally everything has become a sign of narcissism. Like, let me go ahead and look up, or not look up, but let me play to you. Not play, actually. I wanted to go ahead and show you some shit that I had to, some shit that I looked at because someone posted it, and in this one group thing that I am a part of. Let me see. Man, where was it? Here we go. And personally, I don't really care about calling out names, so I'm going to go ahead and do it here. Narc Survivor. Actually, you know what? I haven't even watched too many of these videos, but I wanted to. But you don't even have to watch a certain videos in order to know that this person is an agent of chaos, or that this person is or that this person isn't actually interested in, you know, arming people with information. What they're really doing is they're still wounded from whatever happened to them in their life. And so every single thing that the person, like, let's see. Let's see. Let's see. It's just where is it? It's just, a lot of these channels, and a lot of them are from people that I honestly think have been victimized in ways that they don't even, in ways that they still, toss and turn in sheets over. A lot of them have been victimized in some very real ways. But, and this is something that I always want to stress, and nobody's perfect. You're going to make, when you've been hurt, you're going to, it takes time for a wound to heal. You might get blood on someone else, you might hurt someone else, because of what you've been through. But these there are a lot of narcissist awareness channels that are born out of a reaction to the abuse. Like they're still in that reactive state. Like this channel, I started this after I got over everything I've been through. After I got over, like I can look at things with a very clear lens. You know, I'm not still deep in the fog. I'm not still deep in the haze. I get up, I live my life, and I do what the fuck I gotta do. Like there's a reason my last video was on a different topic, and that's because this channel is it's gonna change. It's gonna morph. It's just I feel the need to talk about these things because they are important. It's important to bring awareness to these things, but people, I don't know why it is, but people just can't be fucking responsible. Like, like there's a certain level of responsibility that you have to have. There's a certain level of a standard that you have to just hold yourself to. And unfortunately in this society, like we're just like literally everyone is a fucking child. Like no one wants to just do the fucking work. No one wants to just act responsibly. No one wants to fucking grow up. And look, I'm not saying that being an adult means not feeling like everyone's out to get you or not feeling like all these negative emotions. No, that's not what being I'm not saying that that's what something that doesn't make you an adult. But what I am saying is that an adult knows how to tell the difference between something that they're just feeling versus something that is real. That's what marks you as an adult. An adult is someone, hey, I'm going through these emotions. And yeah, you might flash off, you might say this, but then you go ahead and you make reparations. Being an adult doesn't mean you don't ever go through these certain feelings. It just means that when you do go through them, you recognize them and you handle them. Yeah, so and so might have hurt you or whatever, but at the end of the day, like, you gotta say, like, yeah, like, I've had some people who've done some really fucked up shit to me. Am I gonna call them a fucking narcissist? No. Not because I wanna protect them in some sense of the word. It's just, first of all, it's not really fitting. You know, one of the hallmarks of narcissism, no matter which way you slice and dice it, no matter, I don't care what Dr. Ramani says, at the end of the day, if someone has empathy or can recognize that their actions are harming you and they feel some type of way about that, like they don't like the fact that they're harming you, that person isn't a narcissist. Lack of empathy is one of the hallmarks of a narcissism. There isn't a low empathy. There isn't a no. It's just no empathy. Like, it's the complete lack of it. Like, there isn't a, oh, sometimes I feel bad about what I did, but then other times I don't. Like, no, that's not narcissist. That's not how this fucking works. But once again, you know, the reason the definition for these terms keeps on getting more and more diverse, it keeps on spreading out and thinning out, is because there's a market for this. There's money for this. Someone telling you that the people that are mean to you because they're fundamentally and irrevocably horrible. The fact that the idea that the people that you don't like are just completely bad, not good, like they're just all evil, they're completely incapable of even being right. Like, someone telling you that, it feels good. But one of the other markers of being an adult is you got to stop listening to shit that makes you feel good. Like, grow the fuck up. Like, this isn't how the world works. This isn't that's just not the way it is. Like, look, you're wrong. It's okay. Like, calm down. Like, that person was a fucking asshole to you because they're a fucking asshole. But the reason I feel the need to make these distinctions is because there are some really fucked up people in this world. Like, some really, I mean, just absolutely garbage ass people in this world. And I'm sitting here and I'm watching, and there's also some really great people in this world. And I'm sitting here and I'm watching these people who are either great or who have just gone through something that's, you know, just changed them in a negative way. And I'm watching the world just kind of like dogpile on these people or try to make them out to be these horrible beings. And I'm just like, what the fuck? No, like, calm the, like, this, it's, what's interesting about these channels is it's like they're creating narcissists. These narcissistic awareness channels are in a way kind of creating narcissists. They want you to, when you view someone that you don't like as being irrevocably bad or fundamentally flawed or wrong or more subhuman than you, not only do you start to lack empathy for them, you know, you start to view them as these subhumans that you could do whatever with, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you hurt them because, oh, who cares? They're an awful person. Like, they're destroying your ability to empathize with the range of human emotions that we all possess just to make you feel better about that one asshole that you met in your life. And it's really fucking awful because it's like you're literally becoming the thing that you hate just because you hate it so much. Like, look, I get it. Trust me, I know more than anybody what it's like to be on the receiving end of unfair and undeserved, more importantly, abuse and retribution and all these other things. Trust me, I know what that's like. And it goes back to, once again, that conversation I was having previously about this whole idea of people that are born with, they tend to think of themselves as if they just tend to internalize all the good and bad things that happen to them as a reflection of who they are rather than as a reflection of who other people are. And so when they see you going through something bad, they think to themselves, well, that's because you're a bad person. I've never had those issues because I'm good. You know, it's like when people are constantly internalizing what the world gives them or takes away, they kind of tend to project, you know, that onto others and lives and things like that. That's the reason why you have that weird ass fucking, it's kind of like the Indian fucking caste system, that disgusting system that they have over there where, you know, you kind of shame someone who doesn't have as much as you, or who, has a harder life than you, because by saying, oh, in your past life you must have been an asshole, so this is the reason why in this life you're not enjoying the benefits that I have. Just live your life, just be happy with your lot, what was given to you, be happy with that, endure it, be grateful and thankful and kind, and then maybe in your next life you'll be able to, enjoy the benefits that I have. It's bullshit like that they try to feed you. And I'm going to make another video on the dangers of new age spirituality, in the age of the surveillance state. Actually, I think I might have already done a video on it. I don't even know, but I want to just talk more about it anyway, because it's just so important. You know, in this age where everything you say, do, type is being, monitored, surveyed, watched, the way we have certain algorithms that are in place to kind of meet your, to just kind of show you whatever it is that you're already interested in. It's just a way to kind of, lock you in your own little echo chamber. Things like ideas like manifestation and all this, and karma and all this other stuff are really, really bad, because all it's doing is it's just a way for the powerful to make you blame yourself and each other instead of them for the inequality or the dangers or all this shit that you see going on in your life. This is an age old, like, this is such an age old scapegoat. Like, the whole idea of blaming poor people or blaming the have nots for all the ills in society, this is such an old trick. It's like one of the oldest tricks in the book. I don't know why we keep falling for it. I really don't. It's, oh my God. But at the end of the day, I only bring this up because, once again, I'm just seeing these conversations around, and it's being spearheaded by, um, I think it's being, that's what I'm looking for. It's being spearheaded by people, life coaches, and therapists are picking it up, and these supposed to be professionals are picking it up because they see that that's where the money's at. Life coaches have had a come up in these past few decades. Like, the whole life coach field has just completely blown up. And their reason for that is because life coaches kind of like, first of all, some of them tell you real shit, but a lot of them just like to just tell you what you want to hear. And therapists have picked that up, and they're just like, oh, if I tell people what they want to hear, I can make as much money as a fucking non-degree having life coach. Like, it's just, and they'll keep coming back to me because telling someone what they want to hear isn't necessarily something that's going to help fix their problems. Like, what? Like, it's just the stupidest thing ever. And it's all about, it's just that whole culture of infantilization that we have, that was spearheaded by life coaches, but is being, sanctioned by supposed to be professionals. But once again, these systems that are created aren't created for your benefit. They're created for the benefit of the state. Um, um, and yeah, the state doesn't give a fuck about you. And let's see, what else is there? Oh yes, more examples. The conversation and how the conversation about narcissism has evolved over the years is one example. But I'd also like to talk about the medical field and things like that. I started this off by talking about how much my grandmother hated the doctors or the hospital and things like that. And not only did she hate them, and now that I'm older, I can understand why she hated them. But my aunt, she was someone who had a battle with cancer. And she did this thing where, first of all, she was prescribed certain medication. But she just the medication wasn't really helping and things like that. So what she did was she looked into more holistic means of curing her cancer. She started eating better. She started working out. She just completely switched up the habits in her life. And guess what? She would go to the doctor still was saying that she was taking her medicine, and the cancer started to go away. And she even, she just got better and completely healed. Like the cancer terminated or whatever. And the doctor was like, oh, good for you. And she's like, yeah, and I wasn't taking my medicine. I just started, I just started taking care of my health in more holistic means, and it's just at the end of the day, um, and I don't know if doctors become this way because so many people don't actually take their advice. So they just stopped caring about the health of patients and instead start prescribing them things because I gotta admit, a lot of people, like, think about yourself even. How often have you taken someone's good advice right off the rip? A lot of times it takes some type of it takes experience, it takes, this, it takes that, and then finally, you take someone's advice and you realize that they were right. Um, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, you're a medical professional. You should never stop doing your job just because this is what I mean by it. But um, it's just this is what I mean by being in a society full of people that just never want to grow up. But and then they'll sit there and they'll do things trying to make you go, oh, see, you're just like, no, no, we're not the same. No, you can be better than majority of people in society. You really can, just by operating with integrity and things like that. Like, there are some people out here who try to sit there, like, and it's just the funniest thing because when I was going through my abuse, I was like 20, 21 years, like, I was a fucking kid, and they were trying to do these things, like holding these certain things against me and stuff like that. And I'm like, like, it's just, once again, it's kind of like that whole idea of what was it? I remember I was talking in one video about how some people take 40 years to get over their abuse that they were going through, and how that dumbfounded me because I was like, what the fuck? How did it take you 40 years? Like, it only took me 3. Like, I went through 3 years of bullshit. And guess what? Year 4, I'm not dealing with that shit no more. Like, you grow up and you realize just how fucking stupid half of your abuses. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, something I say on this channel all the time is don't ask why. Don't sit there and ask why. Like, every time I go to these groups, because I'm at a place now where I'm like kind of like beyond it, but every time I go to these groups, there's always these people that are like, hey, and I don't know why, and I'm trying to figure. I'm like, stop. Just stop. Like, I mean, yeah, go ahead and ask why, but don't actually hang on that shit because at the end of the day, it doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to make sense. You did nothing to deserve it. And I say this every single video, but I just want to really drill it home because I think it takes repetition in order for it to get through a lot of people's head. You didn't do anything to deserve it. There's nothing you are not fundamentally wrong. There's nothing you did to deserve the abuse you went through. You were just put through it because of who they are, not because of who you are. Trust me. Especially if your abuse started young. If your abuse started, you were young, like that shit, don't even let that shit bother you. You were just targeted by a bunch of people who never grew up. And that's the reason why, I'm really interested in making this channel because a lot of children are on YouTube. They're like these adults that are claiming that they're adults, but in reality, they're still infants or still infant minded and things like that. And it's just, I'm just here to create a space where, we can look at things in a more objective, in a healthier manner, a more mature manner. Really is what it's really about. Less than objective, but mostly mature. But it's just yeah, when it comes to the abuse, don't ask why. Don't try to look at it's just because you were targeted by people. Like, if there's one thing I've known in all my years of living, anyone who is happy with themselves doesn't go around making other people miserable. That is the one telltale. Like, I have never in my life, literally never in my life, whenever I don't like someone, I do, number one is I just avoid them. That's what I do. I don't sit there and plotting on how to make someone miserable. I've literally, if I can count on half of one hand how many times I've plotted on making someone miserable. And that's because they either did me something. I was a kid when I did it and they were doing some really bogus shit to me. Like, I used to do people's homework for money. And this one guy was like, oh, thanks for doing my homework. I was like, okay, where's the payment? He was like, fuck you. He just took the homework and just, and just went on. And you know what? He could do that because it's not like I could go to a teacher and say, I did his homework for money and he's not paying. Like, I didn't have any, support. I couldn't just tell someone, I was doing someone's homework for money and they didn't pay me, like, but that was some bitch ass shit that he did. And so I had my moment. And not only that, but he was way bigger than me. Like this dude was a fucking linebacker. He was on a football team. And he couldn't even, I think he even slapped my ass. He was like, yeah, whatever. And I was just like, fuck this guy. Not only did he just slap my ass, but then he took my work and didn't pay me. Like, oh, I was so mad. But like I couldn't fight this dude. Like he's like fucking 6 foot, 4 in the 10th grade, But but yeah, basically ever since I've, been an adult, like I haven't sat here and plotted on anyone's demise. I'm literally like that's something that doesn't even register with me because it's like who the fuck has time for that? But guess what? There are people in this world who just don't have lives, or there are people in this world who are just absolutely miserable with themselves. And what they do with that misery, and it's not even just misery, it's misery combined with boredom and misery combined um, um, with privilege. And the reason why I want to say privilege is because a lot of times in these I said this in one video about how I was talking about how white therapy or how white psychiatry is and the problems with that. And the reason why that is an issue is because it's no surprise to anyone that your average Caucasian just lives in a reality that's really removed from what a lot of minorities go through. Something I've noticed over the past few years is that white people are starting to become race conscious. And what I mean by that is they're being forced to become race conscious because, you know, as a black person, you refer to people as black people, Mexican, Asian, all day long. We don't care. We refer to people by their ethnic groups. Like we don't give a fuck. Like, we just because we live in a world that forces us to be extremely conscious of our race and things like that. But something I noticed, like one time I was like commenting under this one video on West Side Story, because in the original West Side Story they had a white woman playing Maria. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, and then in the remake, they finally got an actual Latina or Mexican woman to play Maria. I was like, oh my goodness, thank God they're actually, having a brown woman play Maria instead of some white chick. And then this person was like, wow, calling her a white chick? That sounds pretty racist. And I'm like, how the fuck is referring to someone by their race racist? Like, what the, like, and what it is that white people are becoming more race conscious, or they're starting to become more aware of their race and things like that, and it's really uncomfortable for them. And this is something that white people have only been going through for the past few years. So, and it's like you're uncomfortable with this just because you've been going through it for a few years. Imagine living your entire life having to be race conscious, of constantly being, put into a box, because like it's just it goes back to that one video where I was talking about, the difference between different earthquakes. You're dealing with a magnitude 2 earthquake, while other people are dealing with the magnitude 7 earthquake. And white people are like dealing with just very, very minute instances of discomfort brought from things that we've been dealing with our entire lives. And basically, I'm really just trying to say a lot of white people don't have the range to diagnose certain black people with certain issues, or to sit there and have conversations about certain social issues that exist, because quite frankly they're literally blind to what majority of the world is going through. They're literally just fucking blind. Like they just don't have the range. They don't have the life experience. They don't have the they just don't. And this is the reason why they view, a lot of them tend to kind of view people outside of their group as just inherently, a lot of the racists still go on these rants, and even people that wouldn't consider them racist, but just realists, but which they really aren't, because once again, it's just born out of ignorance, the ignorance of other lived realities. This is the reason why majority of these videos that are talking about how, narcissists or people who grew up with adverse childhoods are done by people who are fucking Caucasian, because it's like they don't fucking understand what it's like to have lived during, like they just don't it goes back to this one topic that I brought up before, about how that one white doctor went into this ghetto and he was trying to sit there and label these children, fucking children. I think no one was above the middle school age. as fucking psychopaths just because they were disrupting class and they were saying that they didn't feel any type of way about this being disruptive and being violent and disorderly. And it's just like, bitch, that person isn't a fucking psychopath. They're a fucking child in a environment that is, that's just horrible to them. And it's just so like it's just, once again, just that, like, Caucasians, like white people, they really don't understand just how ignorant they are of real reality. A reality in which you don't have a mom and dad who are amicably split up. A lot of white people, they come from these divorced homes, but their dad isn't a fucking, first of all, their dad is still present, but he isn't, or, oh, they'll have an alcoholic parent or things like that, but they have a community that is a lot more, they're the outlier in their community. Whenever white people come from trash backgrounds, they're typically outliers in their community. But whenever a Black person, a Mexican person, we come from trash background, we're not outliers. We're the norm. So, even in white communities, that dysfunction isn't even, certain levels of dysfunction aren't even normalized. And I'm not sitting here trying to say that all white people have easy lives or all white people are this or that. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is that enough of them, too many of them, live in a reality that is removed from the realities of others. And they sit there and they think that they have the authority to speak on someone else's life or just to diagnose someone with certain irrevocable, and it's always the most inhumane. Notice how they always go for the most inhumane diagnoses. They were literally trying to brand these children as psychopaths. This old ass white doctor was trying to brand these brown and Black children as psychopaths just because they were displaying these emotions of just not caring or not being remorseful about their actions. And it's just like, what the fuck is wrong? Like, there's just so much what's the word I'm looking for? They lack empathy, and it's just, and these white people who are sitting there, inhumanely diagnosing these brown and Black children with these extremely dark and sinister personality disorders. Who do you think it fucking benefits? You know how of course, if every brown and Black person was a fucking psychopath or a narcissist, I'm sure that would make white people's day. Like, what the fuck? Like, this doesn't. It's like, who the fuck does this benefit? Like, it's not. This isn't acceptable. This isn't okay. Like, and this is what I mean. Like, you guys, like, you really have to. It's just, once again, you're just dealing with people who just really don't have the range. They don't have the ability. They don't have the empathy. They didn't grow up enough. They didn't experience enough. That's another thing. And this goes for every academic. Actually, this is something that I discovered dealing with Black academics. Those are, the Black people that go into academia and all these other higher fields of study. Something that I hate a lot about Black academics and academics in general is that a lot of them live their life in observation. And what I mean by that is all they do is read. They don't really experience, and that's, observers, social observers, these people are fundamental to, they're just fundamental. They're fundamental to society. They're fundamental to education. They're great. I fucking love observers. I'm an observer. But not only am I an observer, but I'm also someone who lives life. I mean, you got to experience things, and what happens, and the reason why I bring that up is because of the fact that there's a lot of people who have done nothing but read study after study after study, and they think that gives them a clear blueprint of life. But it goes into this one conversation I was having before about the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge will tell you that, someone who displays a lack of empathy is a psychopath, or violence and a lack of empathy is a psychopath. But a wisdom will tell you that, okay, can we look into their background a bit? Can we look into their age? Like, why the fuck are we diagnosing a 12-year-old? And what's interesting is there is some kids, there's some things that certain kids do, like torturing little animals as a child. That's kind of like a very clear indicator that you're going to be a psychopath. But being disruptive in class isn't an indicator of you being that's fucking normal. Every child, even me, and I was one of those goody two-shoe kids. Not because I wanted to people please, but because I was just it's just my nature. I'm a very gentle. I'm a very like I'm just chill. I'm really chill. I don't really yeah, I'm just a pretty chill natured individual. Especially as a kid. Like I just didn't I just wasn't very aggressive. Like that's what I'm really coming to. I'm not very aggressive. I'm not very I can be when I'm, dysregulated or things like that, but for the most part, that's just not my character. Um And for people like me, a lot of the conflicts in my life, or people like me, a lot of our conflicts don't necessarily come from the things that we start. They come from the things that people start with us. Like for some reason, people like me with these calm spirits, or these people who are just like, yeah, I could argue with you, but I'd rather not. Or I'll, like I said, I used to do a lot of journaling and things like that. I'm one of the quiet ones. People tend to when you're a quiet person, people tend to do a lot of projecting. And what I mean by that is because you aren't speaking up, because you aren't saying things, because you aren't this or that, because you're not loud and bodacious and rude, people just tend to, the people that are loud, bodacious, and rude or whatever, they just tend to just tack a whole bunch of things on you. They just do a whole bunch of projecting. You aren't saying anything, and so they have to make sense of you. And the way they make sense of you is by projecting whatever it is that they want to project onto you. And so people like me, we constantly have to deal with projections. Um, but where I was going with this is just once again about how these and then about how you grow up and you enter society and there's all these people that don't have the that just didn't either they didn't do the work for themselves or they don't have the range for themselves and things like that. And they just wound up becoming people in these positions of authority. And what they do is they sit there and they use their authority and their very limited life experiences to diagnose and to treat a population. And then once again, many of them just don't even have they just don't have the and many of them, not even what they lack, but some of them, even if they are, smart and things like that, or they do have the experience and things like that. Once again, the broader topic of this video about how systems are in place, not for your benefit, but a lot of them are also taught things that just aren't helpful. And I always bring up the whole, just, and honestly, I can even talk on my own experiences. It's not just how the whole trans debate thing is going on. But when you look at like as someone who's been in therapy or things like that, a lot of the times, I'll sit there and I'll say something, or I'll sit there and I'll disagree with my therapist or something. And I don't know if it's because they are taught they shouldn't disagree with me or that disagreeing with me would be an issue or something like that. But it's like I'm here because I need you to, kind of give me your like a lot of times every single time I've been in any form of therapy, I've always dealt with an extremely passive therapist who just isn't like they just do what's the word I'm looking for. And I think that my case might be a little bit different because I'm extremely self-aware and I'm highly self-aware and I'm highly, like I'm just not like I do the work. Just put it like that. Like I think I'm a pretty easy case, you know. Um so that might play into it as well. But just a lot of the times, I'm not really ever getting I just feel like I don't really ever get any insight or anything that helps in that way. But but um but something I've noticed whenever I look at it, honestly, a lot of it just has to do with just internet therapy. Internet therapy is just a very bad, like, it just hasn't been good in my opinion. Not only hasn't it been good for me, but I just seen the way it hasn't been good for my society. Like, people are literally walking around here just thinking that, sorry, with just professionals that are enabling them, and enabling their piss poor worldviews and their piss poor, ideas. And it's just like, oh my gosh, it's just a fucking shit show. And a dangerous shit show because once again, when people are angry, when they're feeling like they're in a mob, when they're feeling like they're related to, mob or things like that, they just turn to or turn against whoever their anger is being directed towards, and once again, while it might feel good to be like, that person who, messed with me in school, they're a fucking narcissist, or that kid, it's like, calm the fuck down. Like, these people aren't, it's just that black and white thinking. It's crazy because therapists aren't supposed to, they're not supposed to instill in their patients black and white thinking. They're supposed to help you. That's actually a problem, an issue. If you have black and white thinking, that's not a good sign. But the way that these therapists, and these psychiatrists work, it's like they're trying to develop black and white thinking in people. Um, don't, and don't get me wrong, part of me understands when something is harmful, it doesn't always matter why someone is doing something, or it doesn't always matter, what the origin story is behind your behavior. Bad is bad no matter what, evil is evil no matter what. But the issue with that is that the issue with not caring or not looking um into as the victim, it is not your job as the person enduring abuse to sit there and do all of this deep thinking or questioning and stuff like that. But but it is the job of the therapist. And it's extremely irresponsible for someone who is in a psych position to sit there and try to demonize someone that they don't even know, or someone that is displaying behaviors that they just can't really, it's just for them to sit there and make diagnoses about other people that it just doesn't benefit you. It doesn't benefit. It's kind of like when you were a kid, and in order to get you to calm down, your parents told you that turning on the light in the car was illegal. Like, when everyone everyone in my generation, we've always been told, if you turn on that light in the car, they'll get pulled over. And it's just a little white lie to make you behave better. And I feel like what a lot of these psychiatrists do is they tell you, okay, you won't leave this person if I tell you that they're just behaving that way because of their adverse childhood. So let me tell you that person is evil, so that you'll leave them because, they're big bad. They're the boogeyman. They're the monster under the bed. And a lot of people in society, you respond to that because you honestly, quite frankly, lack the maturity, you lack the introspection, and you lack the discernment to be able to just say, like, something. Bad behavior is bad enough on its own. A person doesn't have to be evil to perform evil acts. Like, a person doesn't have to be bad to do something bad, and I don't understand why it is that people get trapped into that thinking. It's weird to me because, like, and this is another reason, I'm someone who, when someone is behaving less than ideal or in a way that I don't necessarily that I won't accept, I just don't accept it. I'm like, look, I don't know what your issue is, but at the end of the day, like, you don't get to treat me this way. Bye. Like, I'm just that type of person. Like, if I don't like the way someone's treating me, I just, throw up the deuces and start fading away. Kind of like what's that comedian on online? Damn, I forgot his name, but this is one comedian where whenever someone's like getting on his nerves, or if one of his imaginary girlfriends is getting on his nerves, to just throw up the deuces and like disappear. Like, that's me. Like, I'll just throw the deuces and like just fade away. Because it's something that I've noticed in my and in certain family members that I have, and certain friends that I have, and it's something I've also noticed just in society in general, and that is and it's something that I noticed about my abusers. It's like they were trying to groom me into being more codependent, or they were trying to groom me into just being more tolerant of blatant disrespect, or just being more tolerant of bullshit. And it's just like it doesn't matter what issues I have. At the end of the day, like, my self-esteem isn't low enough to where, and it's never has been, because I've always, like, and it's just something I was not naturally born. I don't know if I was born with it, but it's something I developed very early on was just discernment. And I really, it's one of the greatest gifts I could, of the spirit that I've ever possessed, and I love it. But just that ability to kind of discern, like, okay, this isn't good for me, so I'm not going to try to hold on to it. Like, I'm not gonna, like, I know how to let go, and I know how to hold on, and I know how to, and I just listen to the wisdom of my elders. Like, that's kind of what it really comes from. Discernment comes from just being able to read a fucking book and listen to old people, and not just any old person, because there's a lot of bitter ass fucking, a lot of just but even from the bitter people, you can learn something. Like, I just feel like you can always learn something from somebody. Um, and I've just always been that person to just kind of learn from, I've always just picked up things from people. I've always learned from people. And that has made me very discerning. It's made me very witty. It's made me very clever. It's made me like, and it's like, there's just so much I've just always, and this is the reason why growing up, adults used to love me, because I was just that person that just always recognized the wisdom in my elders. I just like, you've been here longer than me. Tell me more. Like, people love me. I was like, oh God. People love me as a kid because I was always described as that person with like an old soul and things like that. And personally, I with wisdom, I can with the wisdom that has come with aging and things like that, I recognize that I wasn't a wise child. I was just someone who it's just, it appeared that way because I was just listening to people that were older than me. True wisdom comes from lived experience, though. You can listen, you can read, you can. I was just knowledgeable then, but now I'm at a place where I'm starting to gain wisdom, and it's just, yeah, no, what people are doing today is just not it. It's just not like, it's just the weirdest thing. Um, the way people are trying to weaponize psychiatry, weaponize the medical field, weaponize, like, it's just, you'll sit there and it's all for attention. You'll sit there and you'll go on, and once again, it's all these it's these net influencers, You'll sit there and you'll go online, they'll talk about, no, sugar isn't bad for your diet or something like that. And it's like there's just a ton of conversations around making something as ambiguous as possible. And it's like, we don't have to play these reindeer games. Like, yes, if you like, it's kind of like what goes into the whole weird ass fat acceptance movement and how that's turned out into. It's like, calm down. Like, you don't, just because someone isn't healthy, it doesn't make them a bad person. Like, you can basically, we're living in a society where people don't want to hear, where people don't think that two things can exist at the same time. Like, you can't be unhealthy and a good person. Like, yes, you can be unhealthy and still a good person. It's okay. Like, you don't have to lie to yourself. It's kind of like, also, and it's something that I learned even when it came to things like certain movements. Like, I was really big on feminism and things like that, because I needed to be, because the world needs to be. But something that I learned, and something that and I remember when I was first, getting my, just learning and studying about that stuff, whenever someone would say I was doing something that wasn't feminist, or that wasn't, if it wasn't feminist, I would get my panties in a bunch. Like, what do you mean? Blah, blah, blah. Just like, calm the fuck down. Just because you're doing something that isn't feminist doesn't mean it's bad. Like, calm down. It's okay. You're just a product of your time. Like, it's okay. But just recognize that, like, you don't have to take the description of something just to suit your needs. Learn to accept that two things can be true at the same time. Yes, that thing that you're doing isn't very feminist, but hey, it's okay. It's not bad. Like, it's not necessarily a negative thing. It doesn't mean you're a horrible person. Yeah, you are unhealthy. That doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you're a horrible person. It doesn't mean that you deserve disrespect. Yes, consuming, if you cut out sugar, if you cut out these, these certain things, like, yeah, you will be healthy. You will be a better individual. It's okay. Like, but people, once again, it's just that inability to just accept or work with reality. And I don't know how that happened. I don't know why that happened. I don't know when that happened. But I know that a lot of it has to do with the fact that of these larger systems that we have in place, not working for people, but against people. And psychiatry is one of those fields where they're not for the people, they're working against the people. Trust me. From shit I've seen these past few years, it's just I've been watching as communities become more dilapidated, as family structures break down, as children grow up more and more dysregulated in more and more dysfunctional environments. I'm just like, yeah, this is born from the fact that people aren't doing their jobs. And by doing their jobs, I mean, even the most basic sense of just growing up, people just are not growing up. And yeah, it's gross. It's gross because now we have children running the show. I remember when I was a kid and I used to, oh, look at her. She's the youngest, person elected mayor, or the youngest, and I used to sit there when I was there to think like, oh, great, cool. But once again, that whole difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge will tell you, hey, some young person getting into office, that sounds pretty great. But wisdom will tell you, that's a pretty someone who hasn't lived life long enough to have, like, there's a reason the presidency has an age. You have to be a certain amount of years old to get into that office position of managing people's lives. That's because you kind of have to live life before you start managing the lives of other people. Like, and something else that people hate me for, this is something, because as a Black woman, and just as a minority woman in general, because it's no secret that, like, in Mexican communities, like, seriously, like, Latinx and Mexican communities are kind of like the Black community, but in Spanish, like, they're very similar. And something that a lot of minority women will always get on me for is my stance on unplanned pregnancy, or my stance on how just, toxic the culture, the baby mama culture is, or the culture of just unplanned pregnancy and things like that is. And once again, and that's because, and I know why it is. It's because a lot of these men get online and they sit there and they shame and they just try to just demonize women for having their children. And first of all, the way I see it, it works both ways. The men are fucking stupid and the women are fucking stupid. But at the end of the day, I'm a woman, and it's women that I normally work with and talk to and deal with. As a woman, my friends are, a lot of times other women, and I don't like, I got to deal with, with the just because a girl, one of your girlfriends breaks up with her guy, it doesn't mean she's breaking up with you. You got to deal with, the fallout from their, relationship and things like that. But where I was going with this is that it kind of goes back to that whole idea I was talking about people who haven't lived long enough managing the lives of other people. Like, you don't have enough wisdom to, and like that whole, the culture of unplanned pregnancy, the culture of, baby mamadom, like that whole thing is kind of these young mothers, like, it's not a good look for, it's not even a bad look, it's about it being just bad for the kid. Like, that's what it really comes down to. It's just not conducive to you just don't, at 18, at 19, at 20, you just don't have the, it just baffles me about how people view bringing into this world another life as just another thing. Like, oh, it's just whatever. It's just what you do. Like, as almost as if we're still in the 1800s. Like, it's very, it's just very dangerous to me, the amount of just how liberally women are able or feel like they can just go through with pregnancy. Like, girl, what? Like, why are you so okay with just being pregnant? Like, what? Like, that's a really big fucking deal. Like, bringing into this world another life is a really big fucking deal. And it just baffles me at how many people just don't value or don't care about how much of a big deal that is. And I won't even say don't care, because it's not like you don't care. It's just, once again, just that ignorance of you. Like, when you, at 18, your body is able to, you're more than capable of having a kid, but it doesn't mean that you're mentally ready for that. And it's just, I don't know, man. People just it's just never really a good thing when someone who doesn't have enough life experience is managing the lives of other people. It's just not really that's not really a flex. That's not really something to, because young people are easy to manipulate. And this is something I've learned from just living my life, uh, as a young person who has been taken advantage of many a times, by corporations, by partners, by, like this. And I'm not even stupid. I'm very clever. I'm a very, witted, quick-witted girl. Like I'm not naive. Um, and even still then, but it doesn't matter. Being young, being inexperienced, it just makes you like you're just no matter how which way you slice it or dice it, you just don't have the wisdom. You just really don't. And you're going to be taken advantage of. You're going to, make mistakes. You're going to be on the receiving end of shit. Like you're just going to. That's just life. It's going to happen to you. And because you are as young as you are, you just really don't have the knowledge or the wisdom. You just don't. And even less so if you've had people in your life that you could actually, if you haven't had people in your life that you could model yourself after. Because quite as it's kept, that's one of the biggest elements that we have a lot of times in these more disadvantaged communities, is that we just don't have role models. We really just don't. And then we sit there and we turn to the internet, and the internet is full of nothing but predators. Predators pretending to be psychiatrists, predators pretending to be life coaches, predators pretending to be, your friend, predators pretending to have your best interest at heart, when in reality, all they want is you being angry, you being bitter, you being upset, you being pessimistic, you being guarded, because all that does is just feed their pockets. Your healing and your journey, it doesn't matter to them. But yeah, I was just mostly focusing on the whole psychiatric aspect of this whole as a strong arm of the state, because you know mental health is it's a pretty it is a big deal, but these discussions around mental health are being weaponized in a way that just doesn't do anyone any benefit. And I'm just watching poor practices being sanctioned by people who you think should know better, but they don't. And it's like, and some of these people have gray hairs, and it's like, if this old ass person doesn't have the wisdom to, you know, to actually be able to call a spade, then what hope do we have for the, like, that's just something that I've noticed. I remember at one time when I was doing some writing, I was asking myself why it was that I was born so early in time. I was like, man, I'm born pretty early in society. Like, kind of sucks. I wish I could have been able to experience, more futuristic, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, and something I'm really realizing is that I'm actually not born early. I'm born very late. And by that, I mean, I'm born in a time where the the powers that be have already, like, this is around the end stages of their plans to, you know, continue to disrupt communities and to continue, like, I'm in the late stages of you know of the building of a dystopic, world. um and change happens. Once again, I don't feel fear technology, I don't fear changes or things like that. But one thing I have noticed is just this breakdown of communities, and the children that spring from these broken down communities. And it's just, and there's literally no help from above, because all these institutions that you think that are in place to help you or to keep the peace or to keep the order are actually the very same systems that are creating the dysfunction, that are creating the disorder. Like, it's no secret that police are, like, about how corrupt the police force is. Like, I've had an instance where my sister was constantly calling the cops because of domestic abuse issues. And despite the fact that she was going to them, they weren't helping her in any way at all. And I was like, what the fuck? And I even called them. Like, I was in a whole other state, and I had to call her state's police because they just weren't helping her. And I was just like, what the fuck is wrong with this? And then it took my other sister calling, and then they finally did something. But it's just she had no help in that situation because they just didn't give a fuck. And then I went through a situation where I was dealing with harassment and things like that, and I went to the police, and all they had was smoke and attitude for me, and I was just like, "No, sir, fuck you." And then I went up to the station, and then I did what I did. But at the end of the day, sitting there and experiencing, like literally watching as these people are just watching as how these institutions that are supposed to be there for the people are being weaponized against the people, and how these cops are picking and choosing who they want. Like, it's just disgusting. And once again, my experiences and the other experiences of Black women when they go to the hospital and things like this, like, it's disgusting. Like, there's just this gross, and I mean absolutely gross culture of just a blatant lack of integrity and a blatant lack of regard for human life and for just growing up. Like, people, like, one of the it's just, as a kid, you're constantly told to act your age, to grow the fuck up, to be responsible, and then you become an adult and you realize no one's fucking responsible, no one's acting, no one's doing the work. And it's a very disconcerting thing because it's just like, what the fuck? Like, you literally just have no role models. You really just have to kind of and there's no reward either. There's literally no reward for growing up. So I completely understand why there's so many adult children walking around, why there's so many why like why I got targeted in the first place. Because when you're someone who's displaying actual characteristics of adultness and leadership and things like that and savviness, like, it's throwing people off because they're just like, what the fuck? You mean you don't spend, you're not into the latest mess? No, bitch, I'm grown. I got shit to do. Like, I got shit to learn. Like, no, I don't give a fuck about what celebrity is doing this, that, and like, that's not necessarily a marker of being a child. Everyone has that thing that they spend their time on. For me, it's cat videos. For someone else, it's celebrity gossip. Like, I'm not saying that those are markers of immaturity. What I am saying is just that the my worldview isn't being necessarily altered by these voices that aren't here for my benefit. But watching these celebrity gossip channels is the reason why you have men that aren't even making 60,000 a year. Men that, let's put it like this: even if a guy was making 80K a year, but he has no assets, sitting there, she's gonna take everything I got. She's gonna take everything. Nigga, you ain't got shit to get taken. Like, literally, as a woman, I literally have to, as a young woman, I have to listen to guys talking about their fears of, a woman taking them for everything. These guys, they don't have property, they don't have assets, they ain't got shit to their name, they don't even have a savings account, and they swear to God some girl is gonna take them for half of what they got. And it's like, nigga, you ain't got shit to take. Like, and it's just watching people become these, like, they literally are just living, in these alternate realities that the online world is giving them. And it's just, and look, for people that are, younger than me, like, I can get it, you gotta, but that's the problem with when you have a breakdown of community and when you have a breakdown of structures in place and you have a low count of actual adults. What happens is shit like that becomes normalized. And it's like, no, that's not normal, actually. No, it's not normal to spend all your time socializing in an online space, and then when you go out into reality, you don't know how to you're fucking retarded because you think that this chick that you don't even know, who doesn't even know, first of all, you mad that this chick isn't putting out for you as fast as you think she should from some porn video, and then on top of that, you think she's gonna take something from you that you don't even have. Like, people are literally like living in these alternate realities that the online world is giving them, and it's just like, and then if you're someone who's not, if you're someone who's just like, and especially me, because all my life I've always been a type of person where I like to hang out in real life with people. I'm like, come on, like let's do this, or let's do that, let's go for like I'm just really big on just getting out and about. Like someone like me, like it's there's just a lot that I see going on. It's not even that. Like when it comes to things like cause I sit there. A lot of times people like to sit there and or my abusers in general, they like to sit there and kind of like shame me for some of the social some of the perspectives that I have on social issues. Like once again, I always bring up colorism because there's just a lot of people who have this issue with the fact that I sympathize or empathize with the plight that darker skinned women have to go through, not just in this society, but on the planet. And they'll sit there and they'll view my like me like I don't like to talk to people that are colorist. Like, I really don't. Like I don't want to be what I mean by talk to I mean be romantically involved with, because a lot of times when I date people, it's people of darker skin tones, and it's like if you're a darker skin tone person and you're a colorist, like why the fuck? Like you obviously hate yourself. Like why the fuck are we talking? Like I don't want to. And if I have a kid with you and they come out darker, like I don't want you to like you don't want someone's self hate to rub off on your offspring. Like my children, like I'm not no, they're gonna be filled to the like I'm just not yeah no they're not gonna have to heal from me, um not in the way that I've had to heal from my from my caretakers and things like that like like it literally baffles me about how much people don't care about being a proper parent, but I care a lot about that. But yeah, it's just at the end of the day, you know, you'll have people who sit there. There's a lot of people who are agitated about the fact that there are people who care about these real social issues. And they'll sit there and they think that everyone is anti-colors. And it's like, no. In reality, in the real world, colorism is the norm. Hating someone or disliking someone just because of their skin tone or the way they look is the norm. Online is where it's not really that big of a deal, where it's constantly challenged. And so it's just once again, it's just people who have these distorted perceptions of reality. Like, no, in the real world, it's colorist. In the real world, it's racist. In the real world, it's all these other things. Like the social justice shit is just on. That's the problem. It's just online. Like people just have these backwards ass. It's like all of the negatives that are just online, people assume that they're in reality, and all the negatives that are actually a part of reality, people assume that they're just online. It's like no, it's the other way around. Um, but at the end of the day, these institutions, these educational institutions as well, that are supposed to be doing a job of educating and of, you know, raising a population that's, that is aware. And it's not even just that, but once again, like I always say, that majority of the problems in society are actually born from poor family structures, not everyone's always like, why didn't I learn about taxes in school? It's like, why the fuck didn't your parents teach you about taxes? Like more and more stuff is being off put on the state because more and more people want the state to raise their kids. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to. Once again, it just comes to the whole idea of children trying to raise children. Like people are trying to have families before they grow up, and and then kids are sitting there wondering, why didn't I learn this in school? It's like you weren't supposed to learn it in school. Your mom and dad was supposed to teach you. Your mom and dad were supposed to live life, experience, do some shit, and then pour their knowledge into you. And if they didn't have the knowledge, your grandparents and your aunties and your uncles, they were supposed to fill you with knowledge. But no, we have this isolation parenting model, and we have this very selfish kind of parenting model where, well, if I want to get it, I'm gonna have it anyway. I don't care if my child is just gonna have to live the life that they have. And it's just this whole 1800s parenting book. I got my child to adulthood. They didn't die, so therefore I did a good job. Like what? And then they get mad when their kid is upset or when their kid is questioning things, and it's just like, the fuck is like? It's just once again the blind leading the blind. People refusing to grow up, and then, but I guess I'm gonna have to do other videos on the police and the hospitals, because this entire one was just about the failings of psychiatric and therapeutic systems that do more to enable and infantilize society rather than create strong men and women that can handle the ups and downs of life um, maturely. But more on this and other topics later.